define your ideal reader is the first step. And so normally where I start with somebody is, what's the purpose of this book? Who are we writing it for? And how do we want them to be different at the end of the book? One is self-publishing. You do it all yourself. You keep all the royalties. You can do it very quickly. Lots of advantages to self-publishing. The disadvantage is you don't get distribution. You're not going to be in bookstores. So free book funnels, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, Google AdWords, drive to get a free book, describe the, not the features, but the benefits of the book. People buy the book, they hit submit, and on the thank you page, there's an opportunity to go to a sales page or a sales call with you. That's the number one way, the most effective way.
And that is coming up next on Bootstrapping Your Dreams show, so stay tuned. So, the big question is this. How are ambitious people like us, who don't have a lot of resources, did not go to Ivy League colleges, were not born into wealth, how do we become resourceful enough? Use our creativity, our dedication, and a little bit of crazy to bootstrap our way to realizing our dreams. Whether it is launching a new company, launching a new app, or making it to the top of the corporate ladder. That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. We have created a tremendous community of bootstrappers, entrepreneurs, and professionals who are ambitious, resourceful, and want to get things done. We brainstorm, support, and help each other out. So come join us. Navigate to bootstrapping.group, join today, and get the Startup Founders Technology Accelerator video series absolutely free. If you enjoy this video, then do let us know by hitting that like button now. Or if you want us to improve our content, then go ahead and hit that thumbs down button and give us your honest feedback in the comment section below. Here at Tatternoodle, we are passionate about entrepreneurship, technology, and innovation. Every week, we bring you insightful and engaging videos, interviews, tips, tricks, and strategies to help you grow your business or rise in your corporate profession. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing and do not forget to hit that bell icon so that you are notified when we publish new content. Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams show. I'm your host Manuj Aggarwal, and today we'll be talking with Dr. Angela Lauria. She is the founder of the Author Incubator and the creator of the differences process for writing a book that matters. In 2018, the Author Incubator was ranked 275 on the Inc. 500 fastest growing companies and number 87 on Entrepreneurs Magazine's Entrepreneur 360. Dr. Angela won the Stevie Awards Coach and Mentor of the Year award, and her program, The Author's Way, was named Coaching Program of the Year. And she was named by Entrepreneur Magazine as one of the top 10 most inspiring entrepreneurs to watch. Only of two women on the list. So Dr. Angela has been helping people free their inner author since 1994, helping over 1,000 authors in transformation write, publish, and promote their books. Her clients have been seen everywhere, from Vanity Fair to O Magazine to the Today Show, and their books have been responsible for over $100 million in cumulative revenue. Wow, this is so impressive. I'm so excited to have you, Dr. Lauria. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Awesome. All right. So can you first take us down the memory lane and tell us how did you get started? How did you, uncover your inner author? And then we can proceed to talk about how you help others.
Yeah, these two worlds that came together. When I was in college, I was a journalism major, and my professor recommended me for a job my senior year, spring break, working for New York Times bestselling author as a researcher and writer for him. And I had this life for about 17 years where I went from one ghostwriting, editing job to another. And it was what people now call a side hustle. So I was always working on books. Someone would refer me and I'd work on another book. And then I had this job as the head marketing person for a lot of VC funded tech startups. So I worked in a lot of like agile, SAP software companies, subscription software companies that were funded by venture capital. I was entrepreneur in residence at Bain Capital. and I had this tech startup life, and then I had this book life. And one day I started doing books for my tech startups. So I would write a book. The company I was working for at the time did Windows Server backup software. They were eventually bought by Dell. And I was in charge of getting leads, and I had to get like 2,000 leads a month for our inside sales team to sell this Windows Server backup product. And I used a book as a lead magnet, and I had so much inbound traffic. I was easily getting like 2, 3, 4, 5,000 leads a month of people who wanted the book for free. So that company grew really quickly, and we took that idea and shared it within the other portfolio companies. And meanwhile, I was still doing this book stuff on the side. I would always get these book projects and I would do them. And then I went to this writers conference that was all personal development consultants. And I was learning how to write, and they all wanted to know how I was using books to drive leads. So everyone at this conference hired me. There were 23 people plus 3 presenters. 2 of the presenters and all 23 of the people in the audience hired me to help them take their book and use it to drive leads. And that's how I ended up starting the Author Incubator, which really takes the fundamentals of the lean startup. So I was an Eric Ries devotee in my tech life, and we apply lean startup methodology to authors building businesses and releasing them. We start with an MVP, which is the pre-order of the book, and then we release them in stages and increments, building on them based on customer feedback. So it's been a really cool synergy of my life.
Awesome. That's great. Well, it's an interesting coincidence that I also come from tech startup background, and I'm also looking at writing a book. And that brings me to this question that most people I know, they would be thrilled to, write a book, right? Like, it's a very prestigious thing to have under your belt. So tell me, like, what are the key obstacles that people run into when they think, okay, I'm going to write a book? What are the challenges they face?
So we should actually work on your book here, because I think it'll be fun for people to actually hear us do that. But I bet if I asked you what your book is about, I would be able to pull out 2 or 3 different book ideas that you're merging into one. So if you're up for it, like, let's do it. Tell me what you're thinking about for a book.
Awesome. So my life is all about sort of, being resourceful and making things happen with limited resources. So I'm about bootstrapping, because through my life experiences, I grew up in a third world country with very limited resources, and from there I have been able to build a life. So that's what I focus on, and that's what I talk to people about. When people complain that they don't have anything going on, or life is too hard or whatever, it's more like looking at what resources you have available and then utilizing them. So that's what I think about.
Okay, so I'm already hearing 3 books. One book is a memoir of your rags to riches story, growing up poor in India and then coming to the US. That's like one book you're trying to write. The next book you're trying to write is how to bootstrap your business. And it's like a straight up how to, might have some elements of your personal story, but it's really like, hey, I don't care what you've got. Like, we could start right here and sell something and bootstrap it. And the third one is a mindset book. And it's on positive thinking, maybe law of attraction, victim mentality, and how to have a growth mindset to get better results in anything, whether it's business or not.
That's awesome.
So
all right.
Even though what you said was only a minute or 2, that level of kind of muddiness in your thinking is what people start writing. And then one chapter, they're doing all this mindset stuff. And then the next chapter, they start writing about bootstrapping. And then they're like, wait, how does this go with that? And so then they throw out the first chapter and they start writing a memoir, once upon a time. And then they're like, but wait, now how do I get to the bootstrapping? What am I doing with this? When people tell me they've been working on a book for 5 years, I know they've been working on 5 books. And they just keep ping-ponging between them. So that's the biggest mistake. You did it beautifully. And there's a way to include your personal story and include mindset in writing a bootstrapping book. There's a way to talk a little bit about bootstrapping book if you wrote the memoir. There's a way to use bootstrapping as an example in a mindset book, but trying to do all three at once is what will trip you up. You have to be super clear about the one purpose your book is going to solve.
That's awesome. That's great. I mean, that just blew my mind, and you're absolutely right. When I was thinking about it, I have these three sort of ideas in my mind, and I was struggling how to put them together. But as you just in 5 minutes clarified it, there are actually three books rather than one book.
Isn't that crazy? And we all want to write like our magnum opus. But if you actually look at the people you admire, most of them are cranking out a book every year or two. So if you want to be more of a thought leader, one of the things I recommend you get your head around is you're going to do lots of books, and no one book has to be your magnum opus, get everything in there. There are lots of different stories to tell that are all aspects of your life and your big life lessons.
That's great. All right. So this, I guess, is the first step in your difference method that you teach. So difference, I just want to clarify, it is an acronym, is it?
Yeah, different. So define your ideal reader is the first step. And so normally where I start with somebody is, what's the purpose of this book? Who are we writing it for? And how do we want them to be different at the end of the book? So if you wanted, let's say, some management consulting clients, if you wanted to work with tech startups that were recently, I don't know, considering an incubator or just did an incubator and they're trying to get a round of funding. And that's your ideal reader, somebody who just went through an incubator, they're doing a round of funding, you want to consult with them. Then we want your book to solve that problem. So we have to start by defining your ideal reader. What's the thing you're selling? What's the thing you want this book to do for you? Your memoir or mindset book probably isn't going to motivate somebody who's trying to do a round of funding in the way that a bootstrapping book might be like, hey, here's how to go into your meetings with VCs with some fresh revenue. I'm going to teach you how to bootstrap so there's fresh revenue in your account. And then the problem we're solving is how to go in strong into negotiating with venture capital money.
Yeah.
Right. So that's step one, define your ideal reader.
So the next one is identify your voice. Should we go over that, or like how?
Go through these? I mean, I will happily go through them, but identify your voice is really about what you're selling and who you are in the relationship. So are you coming at it from a consultant? Are you coming at it from a best friend? Are you coming at it as a thought leader? Like, how do you want the audience to see you? So who is your ideal reader and how do you want them to see you? So in that scenario is really as a consultant, so that at the end of the book, they want to hire you.
I see.
Then F is focus. The first F is focus your author mojo. So one of the things that people do wrong, and this cracks me up, I love human brains and how we do these things. There's a way you always get done. So if Bill Gates called tomorrow and said, we really like you to present at Microsoft, you've got 24 hours to put together a PowerPoint, there's a way you would put together that presentation. But then when it comes to writing a book, everybody's suddenly in some sort of Shakespeare play. There's another way they imagine doing it. They're going to go to a cabin in Maine. There will be candlelight and baths. If there are not candlelight and baths in Maine right now, there are not going to be when you write the book. So it's really about figuring out how do you get things done best. And I will tell you, for me, that's late at night when everyone in my house is asleep. And I start working at 11 or 12, and I like to stay up all night and finish around 6 or 7 a.m. And that's just like when I'm in the zone, that's where I'm most productive. That doesn't mean everyone should do that. That's my author mojo. So one of the things we do with our authors before they even start writing is get them to identify how are you most productive. So one of the questions I ask them, I'll ask you is, are you a burster or a plotter? Do you like to write as much as possible, sit down for 3 days and write nonstop, or do you like to do a little bit each day?
A little bit each day.
Okay, so you're a plotter. So we wouldn't, you don't want to read an article or like do somebody else's schedule. Like you might read an article that I've written called Write Your Book in 3 Days, which a lot of our authors, including me, do. You don't want to do that. If you're naturally a plotter, you might want to write a chapter a day or a chapter every other day for a week or 2 weeks. You still want to write your book in as little time as possible. So the smaller the window, the better, because you don't get new ideas and you don't change as much. So I always recommend you write your book in 8 weeks or less.
I see.
For our authors, it's 24 to 48 hours of writing time. And about half of them, the bursters, do it in 3 days. And the other half will do it in 5 to 10 hours a week over 8 weeks. So, so that's one way to think about it. But it's your author mojo. It's the way you get done. That's good enough for this. You can take a productivity class, go do David Allen's Getting Things Done Another Day. For now, we want to use what already works for you. Our next F is frame your outcome. And this is really about getting clear. Stephen Covey says, when climbing the ladder of success, make sure it's leaned against the right building. And so this is making sure your book is leaned against the right building and it's going to do for you what you want it to do for you. That's about getting really clear on how much revenue are you going to make from your book. 76% of our authors make $100,000 from their book within the first year. 20% make 250,000. And I think our highest is 2.2 million within a year from a book. And the way they do that is by coming up with a plan in advance. It's not put the book out there and hope it does well. We figure out exactly how it's going to do well in advance. So that's frame your outcome. Okay. The next step gets a little mystical. We call this envision your success. And we use a lot of law of attraction principles. So that might be doing a vision board with yourself at the top of the New York Times bestseller list, but really getting clear on what's the best outcome for your book and how it happens. So we do a little law of attraction work. And then R, difference. What's R? Do you know what R is?
Release your blocks.
Release your blocks. That's good. I should have known that one. So writer's block is a huge thing with all authors. Doesn't matter how successful they are. And what we've found, I call this freeing your inner author, but we've found each of your writer's blocks has a message. So we teach a technique to our authors on how to lean into the blocks and get the information. And so there's a bunch of processes, but one of them, in case your readers want to try it if they're ever facing writer's block, is to actually write to your writer's block. And you can write with your dominant hand, like, why are you here? What do you have to teach me? And then the trick is with your non-dominant hand, which for me is my left hand, to write the answer. Have your writer's block tell you why it's there. And we find when you use your non-dominant hand, your thinking brain gets out of the way and you'll get some surprising answers about how your writer's block is there to serve you.
Wow.
So, and then is it N next? Is it nurture your manuscript?
Establish your author feeling state.
So this is just write your book. So establish your author feeling state is now when you're writing, you know what it feels like to be an unblocked author. You know how to clear your blocks. So when you establish your author feeling state, you're choosing where you're going to be emotionally when you write. And that's why it only takes our authors 24 to 48 hours to actually write their book. We've prepared everything so they can be maximally productive. They know how to quickly clear any blocks that come up. And they know how to establish what we call the AFS, or your author feeling state, which is what some people talk about as flow. So I found there's a way to actively put yourself into flow. And that's what we teach our authors how to do so they can be in a flow state and quickly write their book. Here's the key. There's no editing. So you're writing almost stream of conscious. You're writing as quickly as possible. So then the next step, which is N, is nurture your manuscript. We separate the editing from the writing. So first you write, then you come back in and edit. And then we have a specific process for that. Then the next step is create your masterpiece. And create your masterpiece is all about the publishing. There are 3 ways to publish generally. One is self-publishing. You do it all yourself. You keep all the royalties. You can do it very quickly. Lots of advantages to self-publishing. The disadvantage is you don't get distribution. You're not going to be in bookstores. So either way, you have to be good at marketing, but you have to be good at marketing online if you're doing self-publishing. And you have to either hire someone or learn a lot of skills that you may not otherwise know, but it's all learnable. The next option is a traditional deal. Hard to get if you have fewer than 100,000 social media followers. So it's tricky, but it does come with distribution, which is nice. And the third option is a hybrid publishing deal. And that's where you front the money instead of the publishing company fronting the money, but you get the distribution and all of the creation of the book. So all three, we have authors that use all three, but create your manuscript, create your masterpiece, which is the ninth step, is about picking which of those three publishing approaches you want. And then the last one, which is the one that most people start with, but the last step is expand your marketing. And most people want to start by making their message as broad as possible and hoping that brings in clients. We take the Seth Godin approach. So we want you to have the smallest viable audience. Write your book for that tiny slice where you know you can be the best, and then expand your marketing from there.
I see. That's great. And I'm surprised. So about the editing process, because I know, writing is something else, but editing is what sort of, brings about the real the real text that people will gravitate towards. So do you think that there should be dedicated writers? We should use dedicated editors for our book, or we have to edit it ourselves?
No, yeah, you have to. Having an outside editor makes all the difference because you just don't have the perspective. There's something that seems so obvious to you. Like even earlier when I was talking to you, I used the phrase MVP, and I just assumed your audience had read Eric Ries's The Lean Startup and they know the phrase MVP. But there are people listening to this for sure that don't know MVP stands for minimum viable product, and they definitely don't know that means what we try and do is release something as early as possible to see if there's a marketplace. And so this is what we do as writers. We just jump into the deep end. Like, who wouldn't know what an MVP is? And editors come in and read it and they're like, is this a baseball thing? Most valuable player? What's happening? And so you really need that outside perspective to help you check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah. So do you, as part of your program, is the editing service provided, is included, or we have to go out there and get
no, we have 15 editors on our team, and any editor at one time is working with about 3 to 5 authors. 4 is the ideal number that they can kind of balance at one time. So my clients work with me as kind of the coach and the strategist, but then they work with a managing editor and a copywriter and copy editor and a proofreader as well. So there's multiple layers of edits on the team.
Okay. And the figure that you mentioned about the earnings and all that, is it from the book sales, or is it through the business that is generated through the book sale? Oh, sorry.
Business generated through the book sales. Yep. Yeah. So the main method that I teach is what I did for the tech startup companies, which is actually, we do sell all of our books on Amazon, and they're ebook and audiobook and print books. You can get them on Audible. You can get them in Barnes & Noble. You could get them in Chapters or Indigo Books in Canada. So we make all of our books available. But the main way we use our books for revenue, because maybe we'll sell, 1,000 to 5,000 books, which is fine, but nobody's, retiring on the money you make from that. So the main thing we do is called a book funnel, where we actually give the book away for free to prospective clients or customers. And then usually what we find is about 1% of people who get a free book will become a client. About 10% will go to a sales call. And then somewhere between, depending on how good of a salesperson you are, but 1 and 5% of those will actually become a client. And so we can predict exactly how many books we have to give away to make the revenue that we want. So it's a math formula.
Got it. And between the three publishing methods you suggested, which one, I mean, obviously the one going with the established publisher it's better because you get the distribution.
I actually don't think it's better. It's the one that we recommend the least. So here's the thing. If you already have 100,000 or more followers and really they want 1 million, then you can sell books without help from a publisher. You could sell books from your website, from Twitter, from Instagram. If you've already got those fans and followers, you don't really need bookstore distribution. Like, when's the last time you bought a book in a bookstore? Like, I don't know about you, but I buy my books on Amazon. Like, that's right. If you've got the marketing, if you've already got the marketing chops and the big following, there's no advantage to having a publisher, very little advantage.
But what if you don't? What if you're just
following, which is what most of our clients do, you're still much better to either go with self-publishing or hybrid publishing because you have to spend money in order to get those leads. So most of our authors will spend somewhere between $5 and $15. I think $9 is the average to give away a book.
I see.
So it's a straight up lead gen tactic, and your book being in bookstores is nice, but really we just need copies that we can ship out to people. And we use like a fulfillment house to do a lot of the shipping, and it makes it super easy. So, but it's an investment to get clients, which is why we always start by framing your outcome. And this works very well for, the method comes from my experience with tech startups. So it works with business to business software. It works with consumer software, subscription-based software. And then it also works with services businesses really well. So if you're a consultant or an expert or a coach, that's another great way. Doctors, we do a lot of doctors that are converting to concierge medicine. It's a great way to do that.
Great. And what is the typical length of a book? Do you have any guideline, or it can be pretty much? Okay.
Yes, we call these books Chicago to San Francisco books. So you want your reader to be able to get on a plane in Chicago, get off in San Francisco, and finish the book. It's about 4 hours. And a 4-hour book is around 30,000 words. So I know you don't normally think in word count, you think in page count. As an example, my book, which is a pretty normal looking, I guess it's about a 1/2 inch spine. This is 30,000 words and 218 pages, 5 by 8, 218 pages, about a 1/2 inch spine. That's what 30,000 words looks like. And this is, people feel like they can get through this. It feels approachable. And that's, you don't want your manuscript to be too long. We used to write books that were much thicker when I first started in the industry. And now the average word count has gone from 80,000 words to 30,000 words.
I see. But for somebody who is not a writer, or they are like, for me, for example, I started writing maybe 3 years ago for the content that I produce. But before that, most of the writing was very, very technical, very dry. 30,000 words seems very intimidating. Like I have a tough time writing an article of like 1,000 words. So how do you get from that point to writing a complete book on your own?
So the big thing is to map out the chapters. So most chapters are between 1,000 and 5,000 words.
Okay.
And you've probably written 30 blog posts. You can think of it as doing like 30,000 word blog posts, and you could write 30 short chapters, or you could write 10 longer chapters that are 3,000 words each. My books tend to be 12 chapters and about 2,500 words a chapter. And it's really by being much more focused about what you want to accomplish in the chapter. We call it a purpose statement. And so if we know the purpose of each chapter, actually writing it is a lot easier than if you sit down with a blank page. I'm an amazing writer. And it's hard for me when there's a blank page and my marketing guy says, I need you to write a newsletter this week. I'm like, nothing is coming. But if he said, I need you to write a newsletter about writer's block, like now I can tell a story, I can give an exercise, I have some personal experience I can share. So really knowing what the purpose of each chapter is will help your brain tell you what goes in it, what goes in that chapter.
Great. And now you mentioned a paper many times. So do you recommend we actually use pen and paper rather than any digital device?
Oh, no. I write everything on a computer. I'm just 46, so my brain says type.
I see.
Yeah,
okay.
No writing.
All right, great.
I do have a lot of people that have used their phone to speak their book.
Yeah.
So text to type to talk to text, whatever that is, Siri. About 20% of our authors actually just talk their book into their phone.
Got it. Okay. And you mentioned that, once you've written the book, you have to give it away. So that also sounds like there's some marketing involved, some advertising involved. Is that true? For the
3
book
ways
funnel?
that our authors advertise their books. I tell them to pick one and get really good at it before they add the others. One is advertising. So free book funnels, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, Google AdWords. Drive to get a free book, describe the not the features but the benefits of the book. People buy the book, they hit submit, and on the thank you page there's an opportunity to go to a sales page or a sales call with you. That's the number one way, the most effective way. Second most effective way, which is the one most of our authors actually choose because advertising and direct response can be a little scary for people, is speaking. So our authors can make $500,000 from their book by speaking once a week.
I see.
So local speaking, not being paid to speak, but speaking in front of other people's audiences like libraries, schools, hospitals, stores, things like that. And then the third way that our authors use their book to get clients is media. So speaking, media, and advertising, those are our top 3, and we have our authors pick a track of which one resonates kind of with their heart and their wallet and everything in between.
That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us. I wish we had more time and we could cover a little bit more in terms of this whole fascinating product process. But maybe we can continue that on another call.
And if people go to the authorincubator.com/the-library, so it's the authorincubator.com, and then just find the library on that page, the process I took people through, the difference process, there's a book called The Difference. They can get it for free on that site, and they can read more about those 10 steps, and it'll tell them exactly how to get their book written in 24 to 48 hours.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for that generosity. I'll make sure that link goes into the show notes so that people can reach out easily. Well, thank you once again for being with us and sharing this wonderful way of getting your name out there, sharing your thoughts with the audience, and generating more business. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And that's all for now. Until next time. Now, if you're an entrepreneur or a career professional, then I invite you to join our growing community. Navigate to bootstrapping.group. As a welcome bonus, you will get the Startup Founders Technology Accelerator video series and Mastering Your Inner Game video series absolutely free. This series of short videos address some core issues which are instrumental in helping you move forward in your business or career. The videos are yours to view and share for free. No obligations or strings attached, except for one. You have to take action and implement it. So join us today. Navigate to bootstrapping.group. If you want more engaging videos and insightful interviews with industry's thought leaders, then check out the other videos we have picked for you. The link is right there. And if you want to be notified about our new content, please do consider subscribing to our channel.